LSU inside Tiger Stadium on senior night, 41-10 was the final. I'll start with this. I think a lot of you listening were there. I think a lot of you listening watched on TV. I think a lot of you listening had tickets, looked at the forecast, and said, I don't think so. My first game was in 1994. I remember it. LSU played Ole Miss. Jamie Howard was the quarterback. LSU blocked a field goal late in the game and won. I was 6. I've been coming to games every year since 1994. I can't recall a worse weather game. It may have been colder for Troy in 2008. It may have been colder for Notre Dame in 97. It may have rained a lot harder for South Carolina in 2007. The rain before Oregon State in 2004 that delayed the game was torrential. But that was disgusting. It was cold, it was wet, and it never stopped raining. It rained, and it rained, and it rained, and it was never like a torrential. It just was a steady, heavy mist. It was gross. So for those of you that went to the game and stuck it out through the end, big time hat tip to you, or maybe go get a CAT scan. That was absolutely dreadful weather. And, you look at the game and you go, all right, LSU played 6 straight conference games. You've already won the West. Stepping out of conference, play a 5-5 UAB team, 8 o'clock kickoff, empty stadium, horrendous weather. Like, okay, didn't look great last week against Arkansas. Like, are you going to be able to get up and go? They got up and went. Offense was clicking on all cylinders from the start. I realize the special teams allowed a pretty quick touchdown for UAB in the first quarter, but after that, absolutely locked in. And LSU delivered a strong performance, a dominant performance on a weekend where a lot of teams didn't. And I realize that, you can't compare Illinois, who played Michigan, to UAB. You can't compare South Carolina to UAB. Probably shouldn't compare Vanderbilt to UAB. But a lot of teams that were heavy favorites looked like garbage on Saturday, A&M included in awful weather conditions. They may just be awful. In fact, they are awful. But LSU didn't succumb to that, what was the trend on Saturday, which was kind of playing down to competition. The Tigers dominated from start to finish. I talked the back end of last week about how I just thought it was a really bad matchup for UAB. I thought if your identity in this sport this season is to line up, get behind your pads, and run the football, LSU is going to be game for that. Routed off all those statistics from those running backs that LSU had seen, and week after week after week, LSU has done a really good job at slowing down running backs. Tank Bigsby, 45 yards. Montrell Johnson from Florida, 57 yards. Trevor Etienne from Florida, 28 yards. Rocket Sanders 2 weeks ago, 46 yards. LSU's done a really good job outside of Jabari Small, kind of went nuts on him. But that's a Tennessee offense that operates a little differently than most. And UAB tried to turn around and hand the ball off, but LSU just was not going to allow that to happen, and UAB couldn't run the ball. They ran it 22 times for 48 yards. Dwayne McBride, who was a story all week, ran the ball 13 times for 34 yards. That was really the story of the game, because if UAB couldn't run the ball, it was going to be a disaster for them, and it was. But more importantly, we're talking about LSU here. That was my entire message on Friday's show. Like, I don't care that UAB runs the ball really well. I don't care that the game's at 8 o'clock or the weather's not going to be great. All I care about is going out there and just doing what you're supposed to do. And LSU did that. The offense got clicking from the start, and that really made me feel better. I think if you've listened to this show, you understand that this team, although they're 9-2, although they're West champs, although they're going to be 5th in the playoff rankings, although they quite literally might win the national championship this year. Would I bet on it? No. But there are only 6 or 7 teams that have a stake to that. LSU's one of them. And they just still don't inspire a ton of confidence in me. Confidence maybe, but like an arrogance that comes with that dominant team. I would tell any Clemson fan in earshot they weren't going to win that game when LSU went to the Superdome in January of 2020. Because I knew. Even though the 07 team lost 2 games, I still thought they were bulletproof. Same thing with 03. We were going to win. I don't care if Jason White won the Heisman. care about Bob's. We're going to win. This group hasn't gotten there with me personally. I don't know if it's the slow start against Mississippi State, slow start against Florida State, kind of letting Florida back in it late, the struggles at Arkansas. Like, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's the totality of it. So I didn't implicitly trust them to go to Fayetteville and win the game. They did it. And I was concerned with that output. I went, man, this offense that's operated one way kind of all year, now I'll turn around and Barry Odom's dropping 8. He's got 2 spies on Daniel. And LSU can't move the ball. DJ Durkin at Texas A&M is going to be able to look at that and replicate it. Kirby Smart and his staff over at Georgia are going to be able to look at that and replicate it. That's scary. Like, is this team, do they have can they shake that? And they did on Saturday. Now, I'll probably get all worked up again later this week because y'all know how I feel about A&M. We got to go in there and win. But it was nice that they, boom, hit it from the start on Saturday. Jaden Daniels was exceptional in the game. 22 of 29 passing for 297 yards. Kind of set the tone with the deep ball to Malik Neighbors. Neighbors was sensational. 7 catches for 129. He hit him on the intermediate stuff. He hit him on the deep ball there. He's just a great, great player. And with Kayshawn out with the flu, he was going to have to get out there and make some plays, and he did it. But the story for LSU is Daniels. He was able to get the ball out of his hands quickly. He was so hesitant, so gun-shy, so tentative up there in Fayetteville. Get the snap, plant his back foot, wait, pat the ball, try to run, spy, tackled. Get the snap, hitch, look, scramble out, throw it away. It was not, there was not any sort of rhythm to it, and that's something that needed to come back against UAB to inspire a little bit of confidence, and it was there. And then, of course, when he needed to take off and run, he did so. 12 carries for 111 yards and a touchdown. I mentioned this on the post game. Or maybe it was on Friday's show here. I can't keep track. I've got a microphone in my face for a lot of hours a week. But I'm generally in the press box. I was not in the press box for Florida State. They didn't have room for me, so LSU graciously gave me a ticket to go to the game. So we did the pregame show from Manning's. I watched the game, 3/4 of it from my seat, and then went up into the press box for the 4th quarter to do the postgame show. But I was closer to the field than I usually am because I'm usually up in the press box somewhere, but this time I had a seat down low. And Jaden Daniels took off, and I went, oh, my God, he's like a wide receiver fast. He's not like a mobile quarterback. Like, he's one of the fastest guys, if not the fastest guy on the field. And on Saturday, I realize it's UAB. You're playing a Conference USA opponent, but he was running by guys like they were standing still. He had a different gear than everybody on the Blazer defense. And so once again, he was able to get loose. He's going to see a spy on Saturday, a lot of the game. And it'll be more athletic than anybody that UAB's got. And he'll see a spy in Atlanta, and he'll be real athletic, whoever that is. But it was nice that Jaden Daniels in the game was able to get the ball out on rhythm, complete a high percentage of throws, even in the rain and the cold, and his receivers were able to go out there and make some plays. LSU's offense was excellent from start to finish. That just makes me feel a little bit better. If LSU goes out there and plays a game that looks a little bit like what Texas A&M did against UMass, in the rain, fumbling the football, not able to complete passes, stagnating, punting a lot, scoring 20 points in the game, I'd have been a nervous dude because I would have thought Barry Odom would have maybe cracked the code. I don't know what UAB's game plan was, but none of it worked. So that makes me feel a little bit better going into College Station. Brian Thomas got back out there and made 4 catches. That was very good. Jack Besh got involved with 3 catches. That was good. Mason Taylor, I think, should have had a touchdown on that play when he extended to the pylon. They reviewed it, said no, but he had 3 more catches. Jure, in his last game in Tiger Stadium, made a couple of catches. So they were able to get a lot of guys involved, and it does very much sound like Kayshawn Boutte is going to be okay for Saturday. He dressed out pregame and just wasn't able to go because of the flu. There's no reason to put him out there. What's the last thing on earth you want to do when you're coming back from the flu? Go stand in the cold rain for 4 hours? I don't think that's a great idea. So I was texting Gordy Rush during the game. He checked in on him after the game. Brian Kelly talked about it after the game. Kayshawn's going to be okay. He just wasn't able to practice last week with the flu, and there's just no reason to put him out there. So Tigers get the win 41-10. I was very satisfied with the offensive output. There's not a ton to take from these games. These non-conference games are pretty boring. They're not very exciting, but if you're going to take something from it, LSU found a little bit of rhythm on the offensive side. That's something they desperately had to do after a very clunky performance against Arkansas. Maybe you can call it a letdown spot coming off the Alabama win. Maybe you can, whatever you want to say, they weren't very good in Arkansas. They were a lot better on Saturday.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.